Thanks sponsors, Tops Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, Compsy.com, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. This is Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, another one of the questions we dealt with at the Hobby Content Creators Dinner recently. Okay, this one is about whether there could be or should be a code of ethics. If so, is it enforceable? And if so, by whom? And whom is the correct word? I think it's a can of worms.
Okay, I have one more. Does content creator include breakers?
No, I don't think so.
Content is probably gray area there.
No, they're overtly selling something. So you can't have a code of conduct that says you can't promote what you're selling. That's the first plank that this person was suggesting. You can't tout what you have. That is a great deal. Of course, a great deal. They're in sales.
No, but part of the thing that's going on with breaking is sometimes people don't like what they see in the breaks. And because they're doing content creating in that level, the question is that considered part of content creating and part of breaking if you hear about somebody who pulls some card and then says, no, we're not going to give it to you.
Look, in every other industry, in every other part of life, if someone pulled that, there's no way we would continue to keep going back. I don't understand why that happens in our hobby. This is a hot button for me.
So that would be a fail
that's really easy
on the code of ethics.
The people that go back are the new people. They don't know. They just, whatever comes up at the top of you.
I think it's the same people. It's the addiction of.
But they're relatively new to the hobby. They're not.
Sure, but
they haven't been
they're the
around
same-
for 20 years. I don't.
Certain breakers don't reset every week with a whole new audience. It's the same people.
It's not
trying
just
to
the breakers,
chase
it's
that
the
high.
brands too. There's different brands as well.
Yeah, for
it
sure.
circulates.
And I'm cool with all the breakers. There's different styles. Maybe not all the styles are my style,
Right.
but the hiding of cards and all that stuff, that's a no-go, no matter who you are. I might not like everyone's style. Somebody's too slow, somebody's too loud, somebody crazy. Everyone wants to watch a different movie, right?
Cowbells.
But actually doing it correctly with the ethics behind it, doing it right is what matters. And how do you govern that? I don't know. When it goes wrong,
Well,
how do you make it go away?
it may be criminal, not ethical.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, if they're-
You hide a card and it doesn't go where it rightfully belongs, I don't know
You have to prove
where
it.
you're
Bait and
from,
switch.
but where I'm from, that's called stealing.
So let me play the heel here, shocker. Going back to the original question, no. Because number one, you can't legislate morality. There's just no way about it. If you're in the breaking situation that we're talking about, if you see this happen and you choose to still go break with them, I don't feel for you. There is a level of self-accountability still to this. There are some people that are considered negative, some content creators that many people say those people are very negative, and I think you all know who I'm thinking of. But those people speak truths that other people don't want to talk about. They're still bringing up certain scandals from 3 to 4 years ago that these new people don't know about if nobody else is bringing them up.
Oh yeah, the Juan Soto super fracker.
But I think that has to happen.
There's one
I think
of them
it's-
right there.
I think it's the delivery that'll probably help ring better, just on how it's delivered.
So there's a style guide with the code of ethics.
I'm saying that to get people's attention, when they pay attention to it and digest that information, I think delivery and who delivers it and how they deliver it. Because yes, it needs to be called out, but I've seen people beat it up where you're just like, I don't want to watch another negative person beat something up. I want to know that this happens, but it just be delivered better.
You telling me that Howard Stern needs to get pulled off the air because he's a bit of a shock jock?
No.
Okay.
I just don't listen to him.
Howard Stern's now on Sirius XM, where he's not
I get
under
that, but this
those.
is a general all-in. He was just the first one I could think of that was very popular that a lot of people don't like.
I think it just comes down to caveat emptor, right? Like buyer beware.
Yeah.
Like you consume what you want to consume or don't consume what you want to do. If you want to put yourself in a risky situation multiple times over and over again, then the rest of us don't really have any obligation to feel sorry for you when you keep breaking your leg every single time.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the nitty gritty of something like an ethics council, I don't think it would be wise to try to regulate it, but you might say, here's some best practices, take them or leave them. And those people who are authentic and ethical, they might try to like work in their own version of in their own office that they follow and buy to make sure that they're doing the best thing they can for their consumer.
But what are we going to do to those people that buy?
I mean,
these? Are we
you
going to slap?
just don't buy from
Well, I
them.
think,
But people are still buying.
Yeah, no, but that's on them.
A lot of those people don't know those things happened.
Yeah.
When they're buying from
They'll learn when they get burned one time.
And that's
Some of
why
the
I'm saying,
onus-
no, like you said, they get to learn on their own.
Yeah, they learn on
I
their
think
own.
you and I are on the same page.
You like the best thing you can do is leave people alone so they can make their own mistakes, and then if they have to make their own mistakes a couple more
That has
times
to happen
over,
in
then
this
you
hobby.
have to just let
That
them do
happens in
that.
life.
Yeah, that's the thing, and just let them make those decisions. Don't regulate that. Let them figure it out for themselves.
So one thing you said to me one time, and it's not probably the exact words you said, but there was the beauty and the clunkiness of this hobby. It's not governed, and it's not as easy as it could be, and all that stuff. And there's a learning curve to it, but that's part of the beauty of it as well.
some of the onus falls on platforms that allow this activity to happen by not keeping that person that commits those acts on the platform is guilty by association or condoning it. If a breaker does something like that, we're talking about breakers, that's where our focus is. If they're direct with Panini, Tops Fanatics, Upper Deck, and they become aware of it, they should say, you don't get any stuff from us. We saw video evidence, whatever time limit that you're suspended, 2 years, 5 years, indefinitely. Reapply later on and we'll readdress it.
What's interesting is we spent 10 seconds to say breakers weren't content creators, and it took us 10 minutes to debate about content, about breakers.
I think they are.
Now, the irony is the opposite of a code of ethics. Like the people I know in this room, like Logan with NASCAR, Ken with his IndyCar, Stefan with his twins, Mike with his vintage, me with my 70s stuff. We're promoting competition for stuff that we're to acquire, which is ludicrous. But we do it because we're the antithesis of ethic questionability. Makes no sense. I'm going to tell somebody I'm going to Jackie Robinson. All of a sudden, everybody knows John Newman's going under Jackie Robinson.
That's
Probably driving the price up. Same.
That's been happening to me for years and years.
You don't have to worry about anybody in the room with that stuff. But it's interesting that we're the irony that we're talking about ethics when we're the ones that are promoting our own competition for stuff that we collect.
The first time I ever met Patrick in person is when he and his mom came to my show. Mom makes really good cookies and desserts, by the way. And you didn't buy one Frank Thomas card at the show, and yet we found out there were 4 different Frank Thomas collectors that weekend at the show, all of whom were like bowing down at your shrine. This is the guy. Patrick's in the show. Oh, he's the Frank Thomas guy. I'm just a little guy compared to him. And yet they knew that you were promoting Frank Thomas stuff that you might not even have, that you just thought was cool.
Yeah, I just talk about it because I like it. I've talked about things I still need just because it's fun for me to talk about that stuff. I talked about mirror golds. Everybody loves those. I just don't have the Frank Thomas. Here I'm on record right now saying it. Someone's going to say, Patrick doesn't have those.
Those are tough cards.
Yeah, and so it's
that's
accepted. I've accepted that.
You know what? Maybe Jim, you create the code because you're
That's what the guy.
You're the guy.
guy that's not here.
I second
It took more than 10 minutes to get to what this guy actually said.
I will sign whatever he puts on paper.
No, the whole deal is that what we're talking about is Patrick is acting more like a media person than a salesperson. If we're acting more like media people, we're supposed to be like Walter Cronkite or something,
Reporting
be
the
impartial,
news, yeah.
reporting the news. Whereas if you're a breaker, you're in sales, you're going to have some verbiage, but it's sell copy for your own stuff. And we can't expect them to not be like that. When you're doing your Instagram and YouTube stuff, it's perfectly okay for you to promote what you have and what you want to sell.
What about something in the middle? I think that the can of worms comment at the very beginning, Jim, was accurate. The code of ethics, how do you enforce it? Impossible. Trying to legislate or control morality.
I wouldn't want to control any of that. It's like the free market. It's part of what makes it
What
so
if there was
awesome.
and I'm going to use Dr. Beckett as an example, but if you're doing it right and you're endorsed by a committee that has decided that this person does it correctly, not necessarily an advocate, but just hey, we've watched them, a committee that watches and goes, okay, these people do it, they're endorsed by XYZ. You can still, as a consumer, decide to not use a breaker or watch content that's not endorsed by, but it's just such a slippery slope of trying to decide who makes those rules and why am I, if I made the rules, why would I be any better at making them than John Newman or whomever else?
And what makes you qualified to make the rules?
Exactly. Nothing, by the way, would make me qualified. But
The slippery slope lands in the courtroom. Because if Panini or Tops or Upper Deck were to cut off a certain breaker or a certain dealer, there could be legal recourse there.
Why?
Because
They have a right to sell whoever they want.
they can disallow somebody's business for no reason, but if they articulate what the reason is, then they have to prove that.
Which is why eBay's been quiet, right?
And that's why eBay won't say anything more about PWCC, because as soon as you say what you're alleging with some specificity, then they can, that's not right.
So they can say,
tie you up.
So they can say what didn't happen on July 19th.
Exactly. Yeah. As soon as you
That's
point
why-
out. So, guys, we're playing with enough money here that people,
We'll fight for it.
these breakers, their business would be threatened if this certain breaker, and they have lots of followers because they're outrageous. And would you think about it? Because it's happened when the Pokemon case was discovered to be G.I. Joe. But think of the publicity from this negativity just from the original Trevor Lawrence thing. And that people don't forget that of the people that are in the know. But they're now known as the people that did that.
They love your answer.
The worst thing in the culture and in the industry and the hobby is to be ignored, to be not relevant, to be not noticed. Those two guys are forever in our minds. You remember what happened, and you remember to not patronize them.
Maybe they need to have you on the break with them to even it out.
That would more than even it out, I think.
Did you go through this in the late 70s? It's pseudo-regulation or
Early
attempt?
80s.
More
Barry
than-
Halper tried to do something like this. I think it was in the late
77,
70s.
78 it began.
Was it? Yeah.
And you were,
And they wanted me to be involved in that too.
yes, you were definitely
to
part
draw
of it.
something up. And Barry Halper, being a part owner of the Yankees, passed away now. But he had his hands full. He wasn't going to touch this. He wanted to be a motivating factor in it, but he didn't want to get sued. He didn't want to make the call either.
What I
And
find-
now we find out that some of his stuff, for whatever reason, was not all legit as well.
What I find interesting is almost every other hobby has an American Stamp Dealers Association,
Yeah.
American Numismatic Association,
Yeah.
American Philatelist Society. There's always been groups that self-regulate within their groups. As far as I know, we're one of the rare hobbies that has never had a group even try. We've had it even
That's
in the
what was
90s.
being tried. It was
And then
in
we tried in the 90s with NASDAQ,
SCDA, Sports Collective Dealers, or SCAI.
SCI, SCDA. We tried it again in the 90s, and it didn't work.
Why?
Nobody got behind it.
Any benefit would have been long term.
Why not the micro level? Why does everything have to be considered full group? It could just be among 10 people. Talk with each other about how best to manage each other's businesses. Hey, I'm doing this. Have you found success there? And you guys just work off each other. I try to associate with quality people.
Good actors, bench clear media is the sum of the parts greater than the whole with bench clear media.
Yes.
That was a wonderful idea,
Yes.
but I don't think you've had as much synergy as you originally thought. But each person involved has benefited from the collegiality. But it's not like there's this huge network.
No. It didn't go the way we expected it to
Yeah.
or hoped it would. But I would still call it a success at this point.
Relationally,
And
for sure.
Relationally, no doubt.
To circle back to the comment about the 90s right didn't work, in the price guide department, we had a saying. Everybody wants everybody's distribution to be limited except for their own store.
Yep, for sure.
So
Bench
that-
Clear didn't work the way we expected it to because everybody think that they have some unique, specialized thing that is better on its own.
See,
I vehemently disagree, but we're also protective of our own.
But you'd have
thing.
your own code of ethics. If they came into that,
We did,
It's-
actually.
I know, I'm saying that would be deterrent. People say, wait a minute, somebody else is going to be in my business telling me what I can and can't do. And they don't like that.
They don't. But they don't see the benefit of that. There's some benefit to that too, in terms of guiding and helping and
Safety numbers.
And you've done Hobby Palooza the last 2 years. Are we going to have one this year again?
breaking news. We are going to have a Hobby Palooza again this year. So yes,
You're dealing with a lot of entities there that aren't necessarily part of even Bench Clear Media. One shots.
none of them are, as a matter of fact. But the idea of that was to bring the hobby together, right? It's cooperative. We originally thought we're going to do Hobby Palooza on Bench Clear. Everybody said, I won't do it if I can't do it on my own channel. And I said, why not? What does that matter? And it is because we wanted some control over it in terms of who we let in the door, so to speak, as Dr. Beckett was referring to. And
we found common ground that I said, okay, then I'm going to select the people that I want to be part of it. We got lots more requests than for people, hey, I want to do it. Sorry.